and welcome back to the Safe Psychology YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Ramesh Joshi and thank you so much for watching. So I finished watching Baby Reindeer on Netflix and honestly I was left speechless. First of all, I couldn't stop watching it, and second of all, it was so well done in terms of the mental health element and the acting. I was so lost in it, and it's based on a true story, and I think everyone who's 18 plus should watch this. It's a really great show. So you're probably like, Umesh, what are you babbling about? So let me tell you what this show is about. So the story follows the writer and performer Richard Gadd's warped relationship with his female stalker and the impact it had on him as he is ultimately forced to face a deep, dark, buried trauma. So it's a 7-part series on Netflix, and it's about a man who works in a pub who also is working to become a comedian professionally, and how he offers some kindness to a woman who comes into the pub he works in one day, who then becomes really obsessed and fixated with him and begins stalking him and harassing him. And I just thought it was a really interesting show. And so for me, from a psychological perspective, I was like, this is great. This is so great well, it's not great, it's actually really devastating and sad and scary and overwhelming for people who are victims of stalking. But I thought it was great in terms of, this is great content, this is something that we can all learn about, this is something that we can take something from. And if you or anyone you know is being stalked at the moment, I'm going to leave some information in the description so you can get some support for that. But let's look into it. What is stalking? Stalking refers to intrusive acts experienced on 2 or more occasions which create apprehension and fear. Statistically, most victims of stalking are female and most stalkers are male. And in this show, they flip it, so the stalker is female and the person being stalked is male. So Digital Spy did an article based on the true story and explaining both the show and the true story, so I'll put that in the description too. And they've included some stats that say that across a number of years, the female stalker sent the man a total of 41,071 emails, 350 hours of voicemail, 744 tweets, 46 Facebook messages, and 106 pages of letters, as well as sleeping pills, a woolly hat, brand new boxer shorts, and a cuddly toy reindeer, because that was her pet name for him, Baby Reindeer. And apparently, police took years to act because each of these behaviours was technically within the realms of legality. But my understanding is that in the UK specifically, the laws around stalking have changed recently and they're a lot stricter. And so if you are experiencing stalking, do not be afraid to reach out for support, because that support is there and it is available. So another study looked at the development of stalkers. So I think it's interesting sometimes to think about what makes a stalker essentially. What are the things that would contribute to someone becoming a stalker? And some of the things that we can think about are harsh parental discipline. So people who experienced harsh discipline from their parents. Anxious attachment. So we have different attachment styles, and those attachment styles are formed early in life. So an attachment style is how we attach to our caregivers, so our parents or the people that raise us. We have different types of attachment styles, and people who are more anxiously attached are more likely, not obviously alongside other things as well, not just having an anxious attachment style will mean you become a stalker, but if you have an anxious attachment style, that can contribute to that. We could do a whole video on attachment, so if you'd be interested in that, let me know and I can do a whole video on different types of attachment styles. And need for control of one's partner, forming a common cluster of the prediction of stalking and psychological abuse. So parental discipline, anxious attachment, and the need to control one's partner. For psychological abuse, the relationship dissatisfaction added to predictive factors, whereas for stalking, the level of anger, jealousy over the breakup was a major added factor, and degree of anger and jealousy was influenced by being the recipient of a breakup and the level of passion, which I think is really interesting. So those are some of the factors that researchers found that can contribute to somebody potentially becoming obsessive and engaging in stalking behaviours. Does that surprise any of you? Like, what do you think about that? I think for me, I'm not surprised by that information, but then also I think there's a lot more to consider, because I think what we see throughout the show, this is maybe a slight spoiler, but not a massive spoiler, is that he initially has a lot of empathy for her, and at times comes back to that empathy, because to engage in stalking behaviour, obviously to be so obsessed and to message someone constantly and to constantly be around someone, you're not okay. You know, that's not a rational way to behave. It's not an appropriate way to behave. And if you don't have feelings that other people might have in that situation, such as feelings of shame or, you know, pride or confusion, then confusion over, like, you know, why am I being this way? Why am I acting this way? Like, if you're not kind of checking yourself in that way, and you don't really have that filter, and you're going to keep doing that, I think most people who don't necessarily engage in those behaviours would be inclined to think, gosh, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong with you. You need help. And, you know, I feel sorry for you that you're responding in that way. And I found a paper that looks at understanding female perpetrated stalking. So stalking that's done by females. And what they found was that victims, so the men who are stalked by women, often experienced a lack of support, and therefore many female perpetrated cases go unreported. This paper reviews the literature on female perpetrated stalking and provides commentary on violence, mental health and victimization. Analysis of the literature suggested that female stalkers pose a similar level of violence risk as their male counterparts. So female stalkers are just as likely to be as violent as male stalkers, although the risk is often perceived as non-threatening when it's female stalkers. Mental illness was identified in both male and female stalkers, with mental illness commonly linked to violence among stalkers. Females were found to target acquaintances and engage in different stalking behaviours, and implications for these findings are discussed. So I find that really, really interesting, is that oftentimes if a man is stalking a woman from a societal point of view, things are viewed differently, whereas when it's a man being stalked by a woman, again, society views that from a different point of view. I'd be keen to know what your thoughts are in terms of the differences between male and female stalking, and, you know, how would you view it? Would you view it with the same level of seriousness if you knew that a woman was being stalked by a man, and, you know, comparing that to if a man was being stalked by a woman? And, you know, what would be your red flags in your mind in terms of thinking about stalkers and what it is that a stalker does? But I think when someone is stalking or is starting to show behaviours that look concerning, it's important to maintain your boundaries and think about what you can do to look after yourself. So this next section looks at, you know, how to protect yourself. So the things that you can do to protect yourself from stalking include remain safe, take affirmative steps to protect yourself, and call the police if you're in immediate danger. And if you're not in immediate danger, go to the police station and report the incidents. Start keeping a log of what's happening. So if you've had maybe 2 or more incidents of someone engaging in behaviour that feels intimidating and threatening, start logging it, when it's happening, where it's happening, what time, date, who you're with, are there any witnesses. Adjust your phone settings, block them if you can. Call your phone provider to let them know that you don't want any contact from that specific number. Tell people, don't stay isolated. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, let people know. It can feel embarrassing sometimes or confusing for people who are on the receiving end of stalking to talk about what they're going through, but actually it's really important that you let people know. So if, hopefully not, but if things do escalate, then you've got people who are already aware and who can support your statements and can look out for you, essentially. You can also talk to the police about getting a restraining order if you need to. And I think the UK police website, which I'll include in the link as well, has really good examples of what is stalking and harassment and the difference between the two. You know, bullying at school or in the workplace, cyber stalking, antisocial behaviour, sending abusive text messages, unwanted gifts, unwanted phone calls. So that sounds quite similar to stalking. But stalking is like harassment, but it's more aggressive. So the stalker will have an obsession with the person that they're targeting, and that's what makes it different to harassment. So someone you know could be stalking you, an ex-partner or someone you're friends with, or it might be a stranger, and that can include regularly following someone, repeatedly going uninvited to their home, checking someone's internet use, email or other electronic communication, hanging around somewhere they know the person often visits, interfering with their property, watching or spying on someone, and identity theft. And stalking, if the unwanted behaviour has happened more than once. And so 4 warning signs of stalking. The acronym on the Police UK website is literally the word for. So fixated, obsessive, unwanted, and repeated. And if you're noticing that you're going through this experience, again, like I said, I'm going to put resources in the description, the National Stalking Helpline, and other resources that you can utilise to get support. So I guess that's it. That's my video on stalking. I thought it was a really fascinating programme. Let me know if you've seen Baby Reindeer, if you're going to watch it. If you have watched it, come back here and leave a comment and let me know what you thought. And if you're interested in more content to do with psychology, mental health, pop culture, how it can all tie together, then subscribe to this channel and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Goodbye.